Thank you so much for joining us on Wednesday Debate Live with Taghreed Hussein here on Nile TV International. Well, tonight we'll be talking about more than one important headlines vis-a-vis the different important events taking place not only in Egypt but also in the whole world. Earlier Wednesday, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. We'll be talking about this important visit by Sullivan, and also beyond the news and the analysis by our international guest and lecturer. I have all the honor and pleasure of having with us Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations. Thank you so much for coming.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amir. And together we'll be reading those important headlines. We'll be talking also Egypt's foreign policy vis-a-vis Egypt's role in the region and beyond. Not only the Egyptians, but the whole world today are witnessing the birth of new Egypt, shaping the regional environment. Egypt's strategic and leadership role became a must for a better future for the whole region and beyond. Egypt, as a great nation, with its location definitely linking the Middle East, Africa, and Europe, and giving that, strengthening Egypt's stability and development and its constructive role played in the region is important for regional peace and stability. Egypt took great strides and made great efforts to establish security and stability in the region, stopping the armed conflicts, pushing for the political solution for different crises. We'll be talking about that and more. But before analyzing the more beyond Sullivan's visit, let's watch this report highlighting the visit, and we'll be back to Dr. Sherif Amir to talk more about this important and international headline that had made headlines throughout the day.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met on Wednesday with the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. During their meeting, U.S. President Joe Biden's National Security Advisor reiterated the U.S. administration's commitment to making efforts to ensure Egypt's water security, stressing that the U.S. is working to preserve the water and development rights of Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. According to the Egyptian presidential statement, President al-Sisi and U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan agreed to intensify international efforts over upcoming elections in Libya. President al-Sisi and Sullivan also discussed reconstructing the Gaza Strip, bilateral relations, and the situations in Tunisia, Syria, Yemen, and Iraq. On Libya, both sides agreed to reinforce coordination on the withdrawal of foreign forces and the unification of Libyan military institutions. In this respect, President al-Sisi stressed the importance of sticking to a plan to hold elections in December. Noteworthy to mention that the planned poll is part of a UN-led effort to reunify Libya after years of conflict, division, and various challenges. Sullivan's visit to Cairo is part of a Middle East tour that took him to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, where he was accompanied by Brett McGurk, the White House coordinator for the Middle East and North Africa.
As we've seen the promo concerning Egypt's new republic, features of the new republic, Egypt is working on more than one important and fundamental level, working on the developmental level and also on the level of foreign policy. Dr. Amir, it has been a very important visit by Jake Sullivan today to Egypt, meeting with the president. I guess the timing of the visit is also very significant.
Yes. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Well, this visit is another sign of the role of Egypt in the Middle East now. We have all known that the Biden administration is trying to shape a new map in the Middle East concerning its allies and to find out how to overcome all the obstacles in numerous problems in the region, whether in Libya, in Syria, Iraq. I think that they need a strong ally. And when I say ally, meaning that the ally who's responsible about its duties in this region and not working through blackmail and other ways of manipulation, of course. So I think that Egypt now has this role. I think that Mr. Sullivan discussed with President Sisi all these issues because we all know that Egypt is involved in the political process, and I underlined the word political because all of Egypt's role under President Sisi is about security,
yes,
combating terrorism, fighting illegal immigration, and the stability of our neighboring countries. And when I speak about that, it's Libya. And I think that
this came actually on the agenda of the talks with Sullivan earlier in the day. And Egypt, in that respect, of course, we cannot forget Egypt's peace initiative, the Cairo Declaration. So a great contribution on behalf of Egypt in this important issue, in Libya's file.
Indeed, because Egypt showed all the world that how we didn't interfere militarily, although we had all the excuses because terrorists were coming from the borders, from the western borders. But still, when President Sisi drew the red line at that time, everyone thought in the political field and political analysis that Egypt will intervene militarily. No, we said this red line is to set things clear to everyone there that we are not against anyone, but we want the stability of Libya. So I think this was a new way of dealing with such problems, and I think that the Biden administration thought about that, and it thinks it's a good idea that why not solve these kind of difficult crises diplomatically and in a way that we will achieve stability.
Yes. Well, more than one important file actually, and Egypt's unwavering support to Libya in the current political plan. Also, Dr. Amir, it has been an issue of women empowerment actually throughout the day, and ladies around the world were very much admiring news from Tunisia, making headlines today as Tunisia's president named the country's first female prime minister. So this is also very much newsy today.
Of course, especially in the Arab world, that now women are taking charge of these important responsibilities. I think that it shows the Western world that democracy, in their point of view, had to take some time to adapt with the people in the Middle East. As President Sisi used to say also, we have to respect the cultures of every country and of every slowly. So I think that Egypt started giving women many positions.
Many decision-making positions, definitely in Egypt, as ministers, ambassadors, assistant governors.
Which is a revolution in Egypt, because no one saw that it would come with that force and confidence. And we all know when Egypt starts that, it's all over the Middle East and all over the Arab world.
Egypt drew the example.
Exactly. So we have seen that what's taking place in Tunisia, they are following the example of empowering women as we have did here in Egypt. And still, I think that there will be much to come, because women are showing real great results in the Arab world in dealing with these issues.
Yes. Talking also about the Egyptian leading role in the region, you'll find how Egypt throughout the past 7 years has been working on the stability of the Arab region. Of course, the Palestinian question in the heart of those issues. Also the Libyan file, as we were talking.
Well, starting with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I think that we have shown the world how we maintained stability when there was this escalation, the late escalation between Israel and Hamas, and how Egypt, through the mediation of General Abbas Kamel, went there and spoke with both parties and managed to achieve a ceasefire in the matter of 24 hours. It was a miracle because no one was capable of doing it. Qatar, Turkey didn't do it. The United States couldn't do it. So we have shown the world that we could speak in a matter of hours with Gaza and Tel Aviv and at the same time achieve results. So I think this was significant, and it shows the US administration that Egypt is the base of stability whenever there is a need that someone should intervene and find a solution.
Yes, definitely. There was also a very important meeting between the president. The president met with the Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, in Sharm el-Sheikh earlier, and they had discussed this issue and also the Egyptian role vis-à-vis the achievement of peace in the Middle East region as a whole. That was a significant meeting as well, very much so.
Of course, a significant meeting because for every Israeli prime minister visiting Egypt is a show that he is successful in his position. Whether it's a must for all the prime ministers in Israel since Menachem Begin. So Naftali Bennett, this is a very important point for him inside Israel, that he's capable to talk with Egypt, that he's maintaining good relationships with the leadership in Egypt. And I think that President Sisi showed Mr. Bennett that we are offering the help in negotiations, in peace, in stability. I think, as President Sisi said, it was very frank, the discussion. It was very open. And I think that Mr. Bennett was very optimistic because he found that he could exchange freely and without any obstacles about finding a solution for the Israeli-Arab conflict and other problems. And let's not forget that we also share the problem of Iran threatening Israel and threatening the Gulf states and the Arab security. So I think, and both Egypt and Israel are friends of the United States. So we have to coordinate to explain to the Biden administration our concern, that it's not only the concern of Israel or of Saudi Arabia, it's the concern of the whole region.
Yes, as you've wisely said it. And back to Sullivan's visit, the US President Joe Biden's national security advisor. He discussed the regional security, including the situation also in the Horn of Africa. And the Horn of Africa is considered to be a matter of national security, of course. So also vis-a-vis the Red Sea, the fact that they had chosen the Nile Basin. So this is another dimension of the important visit by Sullivan to Cairo.
Well, Egypt once again showed the world that how we use negotiations as the main tool. For example, for the Renaissance dam that was built in Ethiopia, we have been negotiating for 10 years now, and we're still negotiating. We have diplomacy in front of our eyes, and we are still waiting for results. It's never too late to achieve an agreement. So I think that the United States already imposed sanctions on some Ethiopian political figures there. And I think that that's a good sign that they are seeing that Egypt is walking or going through the right track, but something is wrong in Addis Ababa. So that means that they understood Egypt's position. We have to add to that that, as you said, the security of the Red Sea. This is a very important issue for the United States because we all know that the Suez Canal and all these parts of the Red Sea till Bab el-Mandab Strait are very, very crucial, because of the presence of Iran and the presence of other China also. We all know that China has a base in Djibouti, as the United States, and Egypt is strengthening the relationship with the countries in the Horn of Africa. So I think now that the United States is seeing that Egypt is present everywhere in the region. We are a regional power. We are not aggressing anyone, but we are giving the message clearly that we are a strong country. We want peace, but national security has to be put on account. That's why any visit of any official from the Biden administration or even from our friends in Russia or the EU, they have to pass by Cairo, because we are now let's say, the fortress or the rock of stability in this region.
Yes, the rock of stability, of course, and security in the region. And this has been reflected during the speech that was addressing His Excellency the President, addressing the UN General Assembly. Very important speeches that has developed throughout the past years. In his address, the President has always been stressing on the fact of building a better future for the region, and talking also about a more secure and stable Middle East.
Yes. Let's start from the beginning when President Sisi had his first address.
That was a historic address.
Historic address that the first Egyptian president echoes, long live Egypt. And it was the most difficult also, because at that time Egypt was facing
convincing the international community.
Exactly, it was the most difficult, and President Sisi had this burden that we have to defend Egypt's position in front of the whole world.
Yes.
And let's not forget, at that time some hostile medias also outside of Egypt was trying to destroy Egypt's image.
Yeah.
So now, 8 years later, I think that his speech is confirming, and that's what's amazing about the speeches of President Sisi, that when he says something yesterday, he said something yesterday, today it's being confirmed, because he has a vision, and this is very important.
They find the vision that has been stipulated is there on solid grounds.
And fulfilled, yes.
And fulfilled.
Yes.
It's comprehensive, we can call it balanced, dealing with the major challenges, and also talking about COVID-19.
Yes, I think that President Sisi, when the COVID-19 happened, this pandemic, he was the first leader to say we have to ensure the vaccines for the developing countries. We cannot abandon them. He was the only voice defending the poor countries and Africa.
The developing countries in Africa, exactly.
And he said it. He said we cannot abandon these people. If we work with the laboratories, we will have to find the vaccines in good prices for these countries. And this was significant because it helps the UN. This is the role of the UN, to find a solution for all these countries. So when a major leader comes and says that, he's showing them that I will contribute with you in this effort.
Definitely working to contribute in this effort, and also Egypt's commitment to the UN system as one of the founding members has been also elaborated wisely.
We all know that we're participating in the peacekeeping efforts. Our armed forces are doing great jobs in very crucial parts of the world, whether in Bosnia, whether in Africa. We are on the front line, but when we are asked to help, we do it. And I think that President Sisi is working with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, very good, and he's offering Egypt's help. And this is very smart, because when Egypt needs to explain its position, for example, vis-a-vis of Ethiopia, we have the ears waiting to listen for us, because they can count on us.
Yes, they can count on us, definitely, and Egypt is always up to the expectations. The 8th time that the President had addressed the UN General Assembly. And if you would assess how the speeches has developed throughout those years, Dr. Amir, and the link between Egypt's national strategy for human rights that has been presented by the President, and there has been a great link with also the UN developmental goals.
Well, this was one of the most, I can call it chirurgical or difficult tasks, because I lived in the West several years, and I know how they portrayed dealing with the question of human rights in countries like Egypt and the Middle East, and how they see it in their eyes. The problem was that when the Western countries saw that they should defend themselves against terrorism, they see it when we defend ourselves in our countries, it's human rights. President Sisi explain to them that the same terrorists that you're facing, we are facing, that we are fighting the same people.
Yeah.
We're not fighting political figures and you are fighting militants.
One enemy.
We are fighting one enemy. He succeeded in explaining that.
Yes.
And I think that when President Sisi had all the conferences with the youth before,
Yeah.
this showed the world that he is open to listen to all the ideas, not only the Egyptian youth, but African and Arab
The World
youth.
Youth Forum had attracted youth from around the world.
Of course.
It was fascinating. We missed those gatherings.
I hope it
I hope
yeah.
that it is going to resume. Of course, COVID challenges. However, those were platforms where you can see the leader listening to the youth without barriers.
Of course.
And also giving leadership by example.
Yeah, he listens live to the questions.
Yes, and
was
takes
daring
notes.
Of course, daring questions. And what was amazing, and this has explained to the world that we are not against anyone, that he told the young people, you are the responsible for your own countries. No one will build your countries. And President Sisi was very clear to that about Africa and the Arab world, and it helped the West because it limits immigration.
Yeah.
He was telling them, stay in your countries, build your own countries, no one will do it for you.
Yeah, great, Dr. Amir, that you have mentioned Africa, because it has been a very fruitful year for Egypt's chairmanship of the African Union, and still this sense of coordination between Egypt and African countries had continued. Also vis-a-vis the challenge of COVID-19, we've seen consultations and coordination on the leadership level also between the leaders of Africa. So Egypt did succeed in building momentum in Africa.
Well, we have, unfortunately, years before, we have neglected this file. And President Sisi, when we were banned from the African Union in 2013, he managed to make these visits quickly. And in a matter of time, it was a miracle, we were the head of the the African Union.
Yes.
I think that he started with the economic issues with some countries and talking to them that we have to take the model of the EU Economic Assembly, that we have to make the same thing, endorsing technology, because Africa cannot be outdated in that field. We have worked also on the prospect of why not exchange our own expertise. For example, we went to Tanzania and we have built new structures there and a dam there.
Yes.
We went to President Sisi was the first Egyptian president to go
Virus
to.
C.
Of course,
Also, of course, this is considered to be a great accomplishment.
And that's why we have built a great medical center in Juba, in South Sudan.
Yes.
He was the first Egyptian president to go to Rwanda and Burundi. He showed that...
And Djibouti.
Of course. And even in Ethiopia, he went very numerous times. He was showing the African people that why not work within us, that Egypt will construct projects there, and in the same time, agriculture products.
Win-win.
Of course, win-win, as the Europeans did.
Yes.
So he showed them there's nothing is impossible for us.
Yes, nothing is impossible for us. And talking about this sense of nothing is impossible, the Decent Life Initiative had shown to the whole world that nothing is impossible, and that we are really working on the human being, on achieving a better quality of life for Egyptians. This is mainly the priority also for the president, that Egyptians would lead a better life and a better lifestyle. How is this reflecting on the vision of the new republic as you see it, and on the world's image, like we are branding Egypt globally today?
It's amazing, because we have seen decline of the Egyptian citizen in many years before, and now suddenly everything is taking place to restore the image of the Egyptian people. As you said, virus C was the main obstacle, and now we got rid of it. Let's not forget something very important. Whenever there is an Egyptian citizen now outside of Egypt in crisis, Egypt goes immediately and helps the citizen. When COVID-19 took place, we were the only country capable of restoring our citizens from the European countries.
Different parts of the world.
They have closed their airports, but they opened the airspace for the Egyptian aviation, so we can get our citizens and give them also, help them to take their citizens from other countries and transport them. For example, lately in Afghanistan, for example, we all know that some Western citizens didn't find the help from their own countries, and Egypt managed to take them in some Gulf states bases to get them back home. So we are showing the world that we take care of our own citizens inside of Egypt in all levels and outside of Egypt, and we are also helping other countries.
Definitely we are, and the president stated that Egypt is definitely committed to work to reach in the nearest time possible a fair and balanced and legally binding agreement concerning the GERD, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. So more concerning the GERD, because we'll be talking more about the development ambitions of different neighboring African countries in that respect. Let's watch this report and we'll be back.
Ethiopia's dam, known as the GERD, made an inevitable appearance during the 76th UN General Assembly in New York. In a recorded statement to the UN General Assembly, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stated that Egypt is still committed to reach, in the nearest time possible, a fair, balanced and legally binding agreement on Ethiopia's dam. President al-Sisi told the UNGA that Egypt fully recognizes the development ambitions of neighboring African countries, and that at the same time it calls on African countries to recognize its legitimate worries over water shortage, given the fact that the River Nile is Egypt's main source of water. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres stressed in his meeting with Ethiopia's foreign minister the importance of the three countries resuming negotiations, while Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry raised the subject during many of his meetings on the sidelines of the General Assembly. Sudan renewed its rejection of any unilateral acts by Ethiopia, with its Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok detailing to the General Assembly the damage his country had suffered as a result of the first and second fillings of the GERD reservoir. Worth mentioning that in mid-September, ahead of the UN General Assembly, the Security Council issued a statement calling on Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia to resume negotiations to reach a legally binding agreement under the auspices of the African Union within a reasonable time frame. The statement was welcomed by both Cairo and Al-Khartoum. The statement released by the UN Security Council calling for a mutually accepted and legally binding deal referred to the need for the parties to reach this agreement within a reasonable time frame, as this statement came 3 months after Egypt and Sudan started a joint push to persuade the Security Council to intervene and encourage Ethiopia to commit to reaching an agreement.
Definitely we're talking about the development ambitions. We recognize the development ambitions of the neighboring African countries. However, we are very much careful on our source of life, which is the Nile, as we have watched in the report. Dr. Amir came in His Excellency the President's address to the UN General Assembly that Egypt is still committed to work in order to reach in the nearest time possible a fair and balanced as well as a legally binding agreement. How can we achieve this equation, in your opinion?
We can achieve this equation with the help of our friends in the international community.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there is no harm in talking to countries outside of Africa if they can help, because we all know that the Grand Renaissance Dam is about investment, it's international investment. So countries who are paying the money there, we can talk too. So that's why I don't understand why Addis Ababa is refraining from taking this file outside of the continent and international community. It's not a national project there, it's an international project. That's why I think that we have the reason to tell the world that if you're financing this project, you should listen to us also before you finance. So this is the first point. The second point is the agreements, the historical agreements about the Nile. The Ethiopians, many of them, the regime there is saying that they are not they're not bound about these agreements. So why the previous governments accepted these agreements, even at the time of Meles Zenawi also, before Abiy Ahmed. So there is no explanation for the sudden refusal of international agreement. And the last point, the third point, is that Egypt still open to bilateral negotiations or trilateral with Sudan also, but with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. We are still open to negotiations. Nothing has been closed yet. So I think these 3 points, the international and the
international community role.
The international community role. And
mounting international pressure.
Exactly. That's very important.
Yes. Definitely it will contribute. In another meeting with Brazil's Vice President Hamilton in Cairo, the President briefed him on the latest updates concerning the GERD after the UN urged the parties to resume talks. How do you see the different parties and their giving support to Egypt in that important file?
Well, it's very important because we have seen that at the UN Security Council we needed friends at that time. So I think that with any votings, we will have our friends in South America, in Africa, in all over the world, in the 4 corners of the world. And I think that Brazil is a country that has its weight in its continent and in the UN. And they would like to understand why is Ethiopia doing that. And we have to explain to all the countries that we are not against the economic development of Ethiopia. No way. President Sisi said we are endorsing the economic development of every country in Africa. But we have the right to protect our national security in waters.
In waters, definitely. Some regional states are also member of the Nile Basin countries.
Yes.
And the regional support as well as the international community both work hand in hand on that file.
Well, we have worked with countries neighboring like Kenya, like Djibouti and Congo.
Yeah.
And I think that fortunately we managed to regain them because at a certain time we lost it, and President Sisi said we have to work with the leaders there. And I think we have done something very important, is that we also mediated in the internal problems in these countries and brought stability in Kenya, and we have seen in South Sudan.
And projects also.
And projects.
Our laborers and
of course,
lots of developmental projects. Egypt contributed to them.
We are working with them. We're showing them that we are not against any development. Let's not forget the peace agreement that took place in South Sudan. We brought peace in South Sudan. So Egypt's presence for them was about prosperity, economic development. We're not a party coming outside of Africa trying to take all the sustainable development from them and leave them some fragments. No, we're telling them we will have to work together in a fair deals. So they saw that Egypt is willing to develop the whole continent. So I think that now when we will talk again about new agreements, if the Addis Ababa government wishes to see a new agreement, well, we have our friends there.
Yes, we are. And from Africa to Asia, Qatar's ambassador to Egypt said on Wednesday that he and his country seek to achieve the maximum possible rapprochement in Qatari-Egyptian relations. And this is definitely reflecting Egypt's weight and Egypt's importance in the region.
Well, we have seen that it was a tough era between both countries. Well, we appreciate the efforts made by Qatar to make things more close. We are, as I said, we are always open to all discussions, but Egypt is very clear. We would like to see concrete steps on the ground. And this is very important because words are not sufficient, that thing. But I think that with our brothers in the Gulf states, things could go quickly in the positive direction. And President Sisi is open to listen to everyone and to every mediation. Our Kuwaiti brothers and Omani brothers are mediating. So maybe we'll have full, excellent relations again.
Yes, hopefully, and well, on more than one front, we're talking tonight international relations and also Egypt's regional role. And many messages had been actually coming out throughout the past week, and Egypt delivered messages. The important meeting of the Human Rights Convention was considered to be quite strategic. And as a matter of fact, as a professor who had lived abroad many years, how do you see a reflection of such an important Congress and what has been achieved in it and announced before the whole world would definitely contribute in branding Egypt globally?
Well, it will put an end to, from what I saw there in the West, the efforts of some think tanks who are trying to make some papers against Egypt's human rights.
Put an end to any sort of rumors in this area.
Of course, put an end to that. We have shown the world that we have an initiative made by the president in the presence of the UN, UNDP officials. It was in front of the whole world. If they want to inspect anything, it's in the cooperation with the UN. They can inspect it in respect of Egypt's sovereignty and national security. And we made it clear, and the president made it clear, defending our national security against terrorism is something fundamental, and at the same time, developing the relationship between the government and the youth is something very important in Egypt's internal strategy. And these two lines cannot be divided because we have to work in security in parallel. We have to work in security and work also in development.
Yes, working development, and we can see, of course, in Egypt, the whole face of life has changed. I have been to Galala city, and I really enjoyed seeing that magic of my country. I felt very proud. Not only Galala, it has been also the new administrative capital and many other important projects. The Decent Life Initiative is considered to be in the core. It is a great achievement, so to speak. But Professor Amir, we talk also not only the foreign policy or the diplomatic role on behalf of the state, but also we need the public diplomacy, the people-to-people relations. How are we doing on that file, in your opinion?
Well, I think that, as you said, with the new republic, many things will change.
Yeah, features of the new republic.
I have seen that people who were very pessimistic in the beginning now are very optimistic because the infrastructure changed. For 30 years nothing changed, and now we have seen things change. We have mega cities, great cities. We managed to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic with the minimum of economic losses. I think that it's very obvious to everyone that this country is open now for investment, foreign investment. Everything is being prepared. Even the internet speed is doing fine. So I think that now in the relationship between the people, I think that things are now, the government showed that things are improving. So I think everyone now is very keen not to lose these significant benefits that we have made. We have made a great job, and we have to continue. And I think those who are saying we would not participate in anything, now they think that it's time to work Many people now are very, very happy to go to the administrative capital to find jobs there.
Yes, it added a lot, and this is what we call branding the nations internationally and marketing Egypt internationally. What does it take to market the country internationally? Definitely the foreign policy is very important. The role of the media is also very important to portray what is happening on solid grounds with full sense of objectivity, like the role played by Nile TV International, the voice of Egypt to the world, transmitting objectively what sort of change is happening on solid grounds. So how do you see that? Working also branding Egypt's identity or Egypt's character internationally through the foreign policy and other tools as well.
Well, in the media, it was very successful. For example, the role of Nile TV, as you said, is very, very important now. We're doing like RT for Russia. We're doing a great job by explaining to the world in numerous languages that this country is an open country to all the world, the hub of civilization. We're explaining that. All the debate programs are contributing.
Remember the Golden Pharaohs parade?
Of course, this was significant.
It was amazing.
We are telling the world that Egypt is still living its greatness. And I think that when it was transmitted live to all the world through Nile TV also, it was very, very important because it shows that Egypt is keen to its own histories. We are not forgetting our history. We are attracting tourism, and we are telling the people that the same spirit of building this civilization is being now present to build a new republic.
Definitely, they are all features that complement each other.
Yes.
And there has been, of course, we have a lot in store, like GEM. For instance, is considered the project of the century. The Grand Egyptian Museum is also contributing to a new portrayal in the new republic. What are the important files you think, Dr. Sherif, that is going to be on top of the list while we are talking about a new republic? Is it branding Egypt's internationally, the global character of the country? How can the world understand the features of the new republic that Egypt is disseminating?
Well, branding the image of Egypt is very important because we would need investment, especially after the crisis of the pandemic of COVID-19. So it's very important, and in using the foreign language in that, it will be very, very important.
Addressing the other.
Of course. I think that our embassies outside of Egypt will do a great job in that. We have a great Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Sameh Shukri. He's present everywhere. I think that President Sisi is present in every conference outside of Egypt to show that we are present. We have relations with all these countries, not only the superpowers, but also with Belarus and Romania, and also the Central Asian countries. So we are showing the world that we are working with everyone.
Diversified foreign policy.
Of course, we are not abandoning anyone. So I think branding this image of Egypt will be very significant, especially that the image of the whole Middle East unfortunately is also about wars and instability. So we are the only country, and thank God for that. We are the only country now present telling the world we are the hub of stability. We are the hub of security, and we have numerous resources, the Red Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, the Suez Canal. We all know that the Suez Canal with this sector is being a hub of investment also. So we are working around the clock, and fortunately we have a great president, like President Sisi, who is working all the time with all the
around
leaders
the clock
for Egypt's sake.
Yes, Egypt deserves, and as we all say, Tahya Misr, we're really proud of our country. The future is going to be better since we are working together and we are one hand. I thank you so much, Professor Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations, renowned Professor of International Relations and with his lectures also disseminating those thoughts throughout the world. Many thanks for watching. That was the Daily Debate for Wednesday, and I'm Taghreed Hussein, thanking you all for watching.